My name is Tylluan. I'm a solitary pagan witch. I'm an author and the founder of the Wolf and Howl Press. Today's little chat, if my dogs will allow me to do it because they've been very wound up today. Today's little chat is about venerating the ancestors. Now this is something that crops up from time to time in my emails and messages. People asking, firstly, should they do it? And secondly, if so, how should they do it? Fair point. I don't think, to be honest with you, that you have to venerate your ancestors. But I do think if you're going to consider this as a problem, you really need to determine what an ancestor means to you. I mean, for me then, an ancestor is somebody so far back in the mists of time. They are my great whatever, but I don't know them. I don't know their name. I don't even know where they lived because many of my ancestors came from all over the place. I mean, although I consider myself Welsh and I was born in Wales and I've always lived there, my ancestors came from France, Ireland, Scotland, parts of England, especially up in the northeast. Who knows where they came from altogether? If we get back any further from that, I don't know. So for me, the idea of an ancestor is somebody who is so far back and yet there is a direct line to myself and to my Audrey. Shh. Now, I think there is a difference between an ancestor that you know and one that you don't. I would not, for example, I've got to be honest here, a lot of my immediate family going back, I would not venerate, not in a month of Sundays. A lot of them I didn't get on with, many of them I didn't like, and some of them I disagreed with most vehemently for various views they held. There we are, we have it. But that's not to say I don't venerate my ancestors. And the reason I venerate them is because they survived. And if you go back and you think, oh, I don't know, if you go back, say, 700-800 years and you think, well, they survived the Black Death. There's a thought. 1349, I think it was, if I remember my history lessons correctly. You know, the Black Death wiped out, phenomenal percentage. It was something like, it was over half, I think, the population. I venerate that. I honour it. I think, thank you very much for surviving what must have been dreadful times. I honour them going even further back for surviving things like the Viking invasions, the invasion of the Normans, the Battle of Hastings. They might have been involved in the Battle of Hastings, how do I know? But I honour them for their survival during periods of near constant warfare, even if it was warfare between one English kingdom and another, say Wessex and Mercia. You still had a pretty good chance of ending up dead. So I do honour my ancestors. I honour them for their survival skills, for just hanging on so that I could be born because I wouldn't be here otherwise. So that, yes, I honour it. I think, isn't it marvellous? And I do have a very strong interest in the ancient past. So, you know, I sort of project myself back in a purely mental way. I don't mean now any type of crossing between worlds or time, but I do mean this idea that somehow I can put myself back in time and think of all these things that were happening and think to myself, gosh, they did so well just to survive. And I think that's important. From what little I know about where my ancestors came from, I know they must have travelled quite a lot, and travel was not easy years ago, nor was settling in different places. So I honour that. But does that mean I have to set up a special ritual at a special time of year? Well, yes, Samhain, Halloween, whatever you want to call it, that is a time when traditionally we remember the dead. And there are all sorts of reasons why that is the cut-off point, that is the time. But you know, for me, I've got to be honest, I often think to myself when I look at the moon and I think, my ancestors looked at you. Going back generations, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of years, they were here on this lump of rock known as planet Earth, and they were looking up at another, smaller lump of rock, the moon. And I often think, well, keep them safe, moon. Keep a little eye on them. And I think to myself, say thank you. Thank you to my ancestors for surviving. Had to raise my voice there, not because I was angry, but because I was afraid Audrey was going to start. So yes, thank you for surviving. And that's it. If you want to make an offering, if you want to dedicate something you do, is often a very good offering, especially for a solitary. You know, I'm going to paint this picture and I dedicate it to the memory of my ancestors, whoever they were. But bear in mind one interesting thing as you're watching this, and I know we get viewers from all around the world. We are all related. Do you know that? We are all related. There is such a thing as mitochondrial Eve, who lived about 187,000, I'll get this right, 187,000 years ago. And she is said to be the mother, the great mother of all of us. Doesn't matter where we live, where we come from, doesn't matter what colour our skin is. And if you don't believe it, we'll go back another 1,000 years, go back another 10, 100,000 years, go back another 1,000,000 years. Mankind was still there. And I can prove it to you. Get a sheet of paper and a pencil. Allow about 25 years for every generation and start going back. All right, 25 years ago, you could say when your parents were born, or whatever date, if you know when they're born, start with that, 25 years for your parents, whatever. Go back another 25 years, sorry, I'll get this right in a minute. Go back 25 years every time. And each time you do, double your number of ancestors. So you have 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents, and keep on going. And by the time you get to, I don't know, about 1066, nice easy date to remember if you're in England. By the time you get to there, you have more ancestors than there were people alive in Northern Europe at the time. Go figure that one. Now, if you do that for everybody, if you do that for me, you do it for you, you do it for your next door neighbour, and therefore 3 people, you multiply that huge figure, it'll go right off your calculator. You won't be able to do it on an ordinary pocket calculator, which is why I said use a pen and pencil. By the time you get back, you have numbers so mind-boggling, it goes to show, well, if there are more people who are your ancestors, if there are more people there than there were alive at the time, it stands to reason we're all related to each other, like it or not. Doesn't matter what your views are. And I tell you something, once you've done that, it will change your view on the world around you, on the people you have to deal with. You realise we're all brothers and sisters at heart, under the skin. And when we venerate ancestors, we're actually venerating the same people. Anyway, thank you ever so much for listening to me ramble. I do appreciate it. Goodbye.